What's going on, guys? So you can see I'm just doing some AFKing in the background here, a little bit of krill, and we're just AFKing some abyssal beasts in the pod. But the topic of today's video is going to be this Necromancy community post. So this post is explaining the upcoming changes as well as the already completed changes that they are going to be adding to the game on Monday. So we'll go through the things that they're thinking about changing, and then we'll go through the things that are actually being changed. So what they are looking into right now is boss monster and single target monster XP rates. Now, I'm not entirely sure if they're trying to nerf or buff these things, but I honestly feel like the combat XP from bosses and monsters is in a fairly good place right now. Right, with like tier 90 and tier 95 weapons, you're able to get about 1 million XP per hour at Abyssal Beasts here. So I think that's a pretty fair amount of XP per hour. The only thing I think they should change is that weird method with the platypus, but I really don't know how they change that without fundamentally changing NPC collisions. There's a whole old school video about that. I think Hanani made it or something, and it really explains how collisions work. So yeah, I don't know if they're going to be able to change that, but I'm sure there's ways to do it. But yeah, I don't really know what they mean by these boss monster and single target monster XP rates. Maybe they're going to increase it, but I don't even know if that's a good idea, because like rasial gives really good combat XP and pretty good GP, so it's kind of a weird change. Not really sure why they're doing that. They're also looking into how the conjuring and commanding of the conjurers works outside of combat. So right now, if you're outside of combat and you don't have a target, you can summon and command any of the conjurers for free, for no adrenaline. And that is a super nice thing to be able to do. If you're going to put in a little bit of extra effort, you should be getting a little bit of extra reward at the end. So I think this is a really bad change if they're going to be nerfing this. Considering rebalances of their adrenaline cost to keep some of this functionality. You know, again, I don't really know what they mean by this. They also forgot a parentheses, which is cool. But yeah, I would suggest just not changing this. I think it's in a really good spot. The only thing I would maybe change is Command Vengeful Ghost should not cost as much as it does. I mean, it's a good ability, but not 60% good. They're also fixing how you hold the Necromancy lantern, which I'm sure you guys have seen, the goofy looking lantern. And then they're also monitoring the adrenaline costs of abilities. I think all the abilities adrenaline cost is fine, besides maybe the Command Vengeful Ghost. That's the only thing I think is kind of bad. But yeah, everything else I think is fine. This doesn't need to be changed at all. They're also looking into a better way to display necrosis stacks. Again, this appears in your buff bar. This is an unneeded change. It's just busy work that doesn't need to happen. In my opinion, I'd rather have, you know, good changes rather than pointless changes. And this is definitely a pointless change. It's really, like, once you use Necromancy a bit, really not that hard to keep up with their necrosis stacks. Hey, we got a garb. Wow. Look at the garb. Okay, well, enough of that. So they're also looking into turning off command with Revolution, which I think is probably a nice little change. I think if they're going to do this, another thing that would be really nice to have is turning off back-to-back casts on Revolution. So right now, if we hide the post for a second and we look at the left screen, the big one, Soul Strike, Finger of Death, and Bloat all have no cooldown. So on Revolution, you'll sit there and spam these abilities, and it's really a problem with Bloat and Finger of Death specifically, because you'll like Finger of Death and then Finger of Death again and immediately lose all of your adrenaline. So I think it's probably, if you're going to be adding a way to stop commanding on Revo, it might be nice to have another feature that stops you from just spamming the same ability over and over, because yeah, a lot of these abilities don't have cooldowns, and it makes it really hard to manage them on Revolution, I found. Like, your ability bar has to be really specific. It's really goofy. I'm not a huge fan of these no cooldown abilities. They're kind of weird on Revo, but they're pretty easy to manage, I guess, at the end of the day, so it's not that big of a deal. They're fixing the commands, or the, what is this, the zombie or something getting trapped. I guess that happens. I've never seen that. They're looking into confusion with how Blood Siphon functions. And honestly, my opinion on Blood Siphon is it's the worst ability in the game, hands down by far. Blood Siphon is trash. This ability, it's clear they didn't test it on Revo. It's just a really bad, like, clunky channeled ability. I mean, it has the same problems that every other channeled ability has, where it has its problems. It has problems with Revo where it will just sit there after the ability is done channeling, and then you won't cast something else for a while. It's just a really bad ability. I personally think they should fully rework this. Like, it's so bad that it might as well just be fully reworked, or add like a superior version from some kind of boss. I think Hermit would have been a great boss to have a superior version from, but unlucky, Hermit has no drops really. They're adding a warning when you're about to start a ritual with a depleted alteration glyph. This is a good change. I've definitely started some of these with the alteration glyph turned off. And then they're adding a suffix to the necromancy sets so you can tell what tier they are. I think this is a good change as well. So those are all the things that they're looking into changing. And now let's go into the stuff that they actually have changed, and it's awaiting Monday's update to release. So the first thing that they're doing here is changing how much XP you get from rituals. And honestly, I think this is a really, really bad thing to do. I mean, in my opinion, rituals are in a fantastic place right now. Rituals, if you guys don't know, are about 2-ish million XP per hour. And these Abyssal Beast AFKs are about 1 million XP per hour, maybe 1.1 mil if you're lucky. So they're changing something that is, it costs quite a bit of money to do. It's not AFK at all, and it, you know, uses supplies and doesn't really generate much of anything. They are nerfing that so that AFKing can, I guess, just be more appealing. It doesn't really make that much sense. I mean, these Abyssal Beasts are fully AFK and half the XP rate, while something that is not AFK costs money. You know, I've said it all. It doesn't make sense to nerf it. And they say that they're going to nerf it by approximately 20%. So we're looking at it maybe all the way down to about 1.8 million XP per hour for rituals rather than 2.2-ish. So, yeah, I don't really agree with this change of nerfing the amount of XP you get, because again, I think getting double the XP of a fully AFK method for something that is not fully AFK and not AFK at all is probably pretty fair. So yeah, I don't really know why they're doing this. It just seems like a bad change. I mean, even if they're unhappy with how fast people have gotten 200 mil, did they really not expect people to get 200 mil in the first like 2 weeks? Like, you know, it is what it is. You know, people are going to grind it out. But yeah, the other thing they're changing is the XP you get for completing the ritual is being increased, and the XP from the random events is being decreased. I think this is a good change. You don't really get a lot of XP for completing the ritual, and you get quite a bit for the random events. So I think rebalancing that to be a little bit more balanced, I guess, is probably a good thing. But yeah, the overall nerf to XP is just stupid, and it doesn't really make any sense. They've apparently also done something with the rituals in legacy mode. I don't know, no one uses legacy, so who cares? They're also changing how invention XP rates work, I guess, with necromancy, or maybe this is just across the board. I'm not sure what they're doing with changes to invention XP, if they're buffing it or nerfing it. But yeah, it looks like the main thing here is offhands and main hands will level at the same speed, which I think is a good change. I mean, this has kind of annoyed me ever since Invention came out. It's just kind of like a weird thing. So yeah, this should make it a little bit better for everybody who doesn't have 200 mil Invention, I guess. What does this one say? I didn't actually read this one. So edge cases where players would gain lower rates at bosses with and high XP monsters. I'm not really sure what that means. So it looks like they've fixed some buffs with the Slayer, Helm, Genocidal, maybe Revenge, that were applying disproportionately. Yeah, I'm not really sure what this means exactly. I don't think it's a huge deal at the end of the day, but it looks like they're changing how some buffs work with certain abilities. They've reduced the defense of some NPCs that were deemed excessively high. I guess that's a good thing. Archglacior minions, living wyverns, and Acheron mammoths. Do these guys really have that high of defense? I don't know. I never noticed a problem with these, but maybe it is a problem. I don't think so, though. Kind of a weird change. I haven't done mammoths in a long time, though, so I guess I don't really know. But I thought I had 100% accuracy with like tier 90s on the wyverns, so I don't know. Seems a little weird to change that. So now we're going to be talking about what they are doing to death skulls. So I'm sure we all know that if you're standing too far away from the target, death skulls will just fizzle out and not bounce between you and the target. So they're extending the range of the death skulls bounce, which is a fantastic change. That was one of the... I really didn't like that about death skulls. It was kind of like a weird thing and not very intuitive and easy to screw up and just more or less annoying. They have also, this is a really good change as well, they've extended the timeout duration for recasting Spectral Scythe, and it will, I guess, now be displayed on the buff bar. But Spectral Scythe is a really good ability, but it does not work very well with Revolution. I have noticed where if you have the adrenaline to cast Spectral Scythe, the same tick that it goes on cooldown, it just won't cast the Spectral Scythe, even though it should have casted it. So, extending the timeout duration by even 1 or 2 game ticks completely solves that issue, so I think this is a great change. They've also said they've removed Death Skull's double dipping into damage buffs, which I guess is a slight nerf to Death Skulls. You know, just a slight rebalance, not that big of a deal, I don't think, but maybe it will be, I don't know. They're adding luck messages to the bosses. The Berserker Blood Essence apparently is now going to work with Necromancy, which is probably a good thing. Increasing the amount of congealed blood, which I think is a really good change because congealed blood is now used for necromancy potions, or I think super necromancy. Death Guard is apparently not a stun at Yaka, which is being changed, probably a good thing. Issue with the Saren Godbow when combined with Decimation, not really sure what that means, but probably a good change, hopefully. Issue with life transfer and conjure timers, capping too early and not extending correctly with multiple conjures. I don't really use life transfer a whole lot, but this sounds like a good change for people that do. Flying Aram will now be able to be damaged with Necromancy. Was he not able to be damaged when he was flying around? And then the old Black Magic quest has been changed into a special quest. I don't really know what a special quest is. What? So, those are all the changes that are coming out. Mainly, we're talking about the ritual XP rate and then the slight changes to Death Skulls. Everything else seems pretty, you know, whatever. Could be here, could not be here, doesn't really matter. But I want to know what you guys think about the changes to the ritual XP rate specifically, because I think this is just a stupid change. It doesn't make any sense. Like, yeah, I've said it all, but what do you guys think? Thanks for watching, guys. That is going to be the end of the video. If you liked the video, be sure to drop a like. Definitely helps the channel. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.